Irish? Raise your hand if you're Irish. Great. I see Clarkson over there, class of 77.
Are you really?
Yes. Any Penn State people here? My son worked there, that's why I'm a Penn State fan. No Penn Staters, okay. So we're from the Rochester Theater Organ Society. I'm a director and the publicity chair for the Rochester Theater Organ Society. And this is Bob Bauer, he's our vice president, and he's our program chair. He's the one that makes the arrangements to bring in the artists that play our organs that you're going to learn about tonight. Also, Sean Gordon is here. Sean is a member of RTOS. He helps out at our concerts doing a lot of the setup. And he did a fantastic job for our holiday show, decorating the stage with Christmas tree gifts and set the stage for the Grinch to come in and steal some gifts during that holiday event that we had. So thanks to Sean for the hard work he does on concert days. So I want to thank you for stopping in tonight. We're going to, first thing I want to do is just show you what a theater organ is about in a brief clip. It's not, you might be expecting an organ recital. A theater organ concert is not an organ recital. It's not necessarily the type of music you hear in the church or in a classical organ recital. So take a listen to this brief excerpt. So our story begins on Christmas Day in 1928, almost 100 years ago, when Tom Grierson began playing the brand new Wurlitzer Opus 1951 at the RKO Palace Theater. How many people remember the Palace Theater? We've got some here. I remember it. I remember the great big mirrors, the huge staircase, the restrooms that we could live in. It was truly a palace. So Tom Grierson was a native of Great Britain. He had played in cities like St. Louis, Brooklyn, and Buffalo, and eventually he settled in Rochester. And he had played at several church organ positions and played engagements in some of the local theaters. And in 1928, on Christmas Day, he began playing the Wurlitzer in the RKO Palace. It was a 4-manual, 21-rank special. The designation, Opus 1951, is like a serial number. It was the 1951st organ built by the Wurlitzer Organ Company out of about 2,300 organs that they built of this type. According to Pipe and organdatabase.org, the original cost of the organ was about $67,000. That's back in 1928. The organ was shipped by rail to Rochester in September of 28. Took a few months to install it, and then they began playing it, as I say, on Christmas Day, 1928. We had some special attention to this organ at the RKO Palace because Tom Grierson worked with the Wurlitzer Company recording organ player rolls, similar to player piano rolls. So we got some extra attention in 1928 on the installation of this organ in the palace for what we call voicing, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, voicing and regulation. Okay. So what is theater organ really? How does it differ from classical organs or the church organs that you're probably all familiar with? Well, certainly it's a pipe organ, but back in the 1910s and 1920s, in the times of the silent films, they were looking for accompaniment of the silent films. So some places they used a piano, but it was hard to have a piano fill one of these great big theaters with sound. Many used orchestras, but then you had to pay all the musicians night after night for all the presentations. So a gentleman came along, Robert Hope Jones, settled in Western New York. He was an Englishman. He was a mechanical and electrical engineer, and he's the father of the modern theater organ. He's the one that, using his electromechanical knowledge, was able to remote the console from the pipes and all the bells and whistles that go on a theater organ. Up until this time, and many of your classical and church organs, you'll notice the pipes are connected right to the console. So in these theaters, they were able to put all the pipes up on either side of the stage and remote them from the console. And so that was his contribution. He became known as the father of the theater organ. So he added many other sounds to the classical organs and all the bells and whistles you need to accompany a silent film or a vaudeville show. So it became what they called a unit orchestra. It actually replaced the orchestras in many of the theaters. Of course, that didn't make the unions very happy, but that's the reality of it. So in addition to pipes, a theater organ contains a battery of real percussion instruments, things like drums, cymbals, a xylophone, glockenspiel, piano, and much more, all playable from the console. So we're off to the unit orchestra. I'll let Bob talk about some of the components of the unit orchestra.
Thank you, Gary. Couple extra things. Gary didn't mention Tom Gerson happens to be a relative.
Well, I'll get to that.
Oh, okay. So, yes, the name unit orchestra stuck and was actually on the nameplates of the early Wurlitzers, and the early Wurlitzers also included the Hope Jones name on them. Right here in Gates, we actually have Hope Jones Wurlitzer Opus 1584. And that includes and it's actually labeled Hope Jones Wurlitzer Unit Orchestra. The one at the auditorium actually just says Wurlitzer, so I think that's kind of cool that there's a change in just a couple year time in the naming on that. But the unit orchestra was designed to simulate a whole orchestra. It does strings, it does reeds, it does flutes, and it's all done with either wood or metal pipes. And those pipes may have a reed, or they may not, depending on the instrument they're trying to replicate. As Gary already mentioned, there's a slew of different extras, from xylophones, castanets, and all these other things that it includes. Even some specialty items like horse hoofs, sirens. We actually have a couple birds that live in our chambers down at the auditorium, and we can actually simulate very well the surf as well as thunder. So some cool things you may hear at one of our concerts that you wouldn't normally hear at church. All right. As Gary mentioned, Hope Jones came up with this idea to be able to take the console away from the pipes, and that included electronics. So the system consists of a big source of air, a bunch of pipes that blow through that air, but there's also electronics from the console that energize magnets that allow that air to go through the pipes. The air supply in our situation at the auditorium is a 15 horsepower blower, and you can see it right there. I get to change the filters on it and grease it on a regular basis. And it exists over the top of the main chamber at the auditorium, which is basically 3 stories above the stage. So it's a nice little climb to get up there. That air is then fed through basically metal pipes that's like what you have in your house, except for all the seams have to be soldered because it's high pressure. So it all had to be soldered at some point, and that goes to both of the chambers and ultimately feed into these things here, which are regulators. They're wooden boxes with leather. They expand, and that's how the pressure is maintained to be utilized for the pipes, because different pipes run at different pressures. And so the pressures on the organ at the auditorium range from 6 inches of pressure to 10 inches to up to 15. All right, so different voices have different requirements. And some of those regulators actually bounce at times, and that's called trem. So when they turn on the trem, you hear the noise, boom, 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 boom. You'll actually hear that. So as we keep referring to the Wurlitzer factory in North Tonawanda. So here's a little picture. The Wurlitzer factory still exists. You can have your wedding receptions there. We're going to be stopping there during the National Convention for a luncheon, so that everybody comes to our National Convention here in 26. We'll have a luncheon there at the Wurlitzer factory. The Wurlitzer factory is kind of unique with the fact that it has the tower, and most people don't know what the tower is for. Does anybody want to venture a guess what that tower actually was? You see it around factories still. You go down the road here to the old GRS, you'll see them. It was the water tower. They just put a fancy little shroud around it, and that's basically the architectural scene that everybody's used to in our world, Wurlitzer world, is the homage, but it was just a water tower. So that's kind of interesting. The factory, as you can see, some of the production things here going where they're adding pedals to one of the organs, and we're going to show you a little clips here. At one point in time, when they were to maximum capacity, they were putting out about 1 organ a day. And that is pretty phenomenal for somebody that's been putting an organ together for over a year now. That was already pre-built, just moved it, putting it back together. That's pretty amazing. So we have a video clip that we obtained. It's a silent of the factory when it was running. It's about 25 minutes. We're actually going to show you just little snippets. But some things to pay attention to is, look at the way the people are dressed. It's just amazing. So, as compared to modern day. So I'm going to turn it back to Gary, and I will take and run the movie for you.
Okay, thank you. This video, the full-length video, 25 minutes, is on our YouTube channel. If you're interested, go to YouTube, Wurlitzer 1951. And you can bring up, amongst many other videos of performances, you can bring up this factory video. We're just going to show you a few minutes of it. And of course it's silent. It's from 1929. I think this was filmed. Click one more time to play.
Yeah.
There we go. Sorry. So the first shots here, I believe this is the engineering department. And then we jump quickly to the machine shop. Yeah, if you turn out the light, there, that's much better. Thank you very much. This is the machine shop, and you can see many of the overhead belts running machinery in the machine shop. Then we jump quickly to the shed where they stored the wood for the consoles and the pipes. Back then, they didn't have forklifts, but they had men. And they would roll the wood out of the warehouse and roll it down to where the drying kiln was. So here these 5 gentlemen are pushing this load of lumber down to put it into the drying area. And they've got their white shirts on. I think one of them has a sport coat or suit coat. They're all very nicely dressed factory workers. And in it goes to get dried out for processing. Now we jump to cutting the rough lumber. So there's saws and planers and so forth. Notice the type of equipment they have there. They do have aprons, but you'll see very little in guards and finger guards and safety glasses, gloves, things like that. Almost unheard of back in the 1920s. OSHA would have a field day if they ever walked into this factory. So now we're making some wooden pipes. We mentioned that the theater organs have wooden pipes and metal pipes. Here a couple of gentlemen are putting together some boards, lining them up. They'll apply some glue, and then finally they'll put some clamps on it to form the basic wooden pipe. Gentleman on the right has his tie on. He came to work with his tie today, working with lumber and glue. This is called the lip cutting operation. The lip is the hole in the pipe that helps to produce the tone, much like a whistle you may have blown into as a kid, or one of these train whistles you pick up in a gift shop. So this is one of the skilled operations in the factory, precisely cutting the lips in one of the small tubes. Then we go off to the finishing shellacking operation in a paint booth. I see a couple of fans there that help suck the fumes away, but the operator has no mask on, no respirator, no glasses, no gloves. He's just spraying shellac there under the pipes. Now they also have metal pipes, and at the Wurlitzer factory they cast the metal themselves, the sheet metal for the pipes. So here they're going to roll out the molten metal into that trough to form a sheet when it cools off. Notice the open window and the shrubbery blowing in there right along with the sheet metal making process. So when the metal hardens up, they can roll up the sheet of metal and take it over to the pipe forming area. This is what they call rounding, forming the round pipes. They've got a cone there, and a couple of men with some really strong arms, wrists, and hands roll the metal up. To get it to form and form the seam, they beat it with a piece of wood. Very, very mechanical hand operation to form that metal pipe. And the metal pipes are washed. I think it's probably after a soldering operation on the seams. This young man is dunking a pipe. You'll notice this pipe, I'll just mention, is a mitered pipe. It has, you'll see a loop in it. Mitering is a method where you can make a pipe longer to achieve a deeper tone without having the pipe be so long that you can't get it into the pipe chambers. So this is what we call a mitered pipe. So he'll dump that water out. Do you have any gloves on? I don't think he even has gloves on. No. Then one of the most skilled operations in the factory was what they call voicing. This gentleman has a couple of ranks of pipes there he's setting up, and he's going through each individual pipe to set the tone of the pipe, and by making some adjustments to it, set the voice, the sound. It's a flute or a string or a brass instrument. And he's tweaking and tweaking on the adjustments there to set up an entire rank of pipes. Then we go to the console assembly. They're assembling the wooden console. Here they're bringing in the manuals. On the theater organs, the keyboards are called manuals. This is a 3 keyboard console they're setting up. And there's also foot pedals, basically play foot notes, some of the sound effects, and those 3 large pedals are used to control the volume. And we'll talk about how that was done a little bit later in the slideshow. So here they're assembling that pedal board to the console, making some final connections. Now they're making the cables for the console to the organ. Remember we said Robert Hope Jones' great contribution was to be able to remote the pipes and all the sound effects from the console. That requires miles and miles of wires. Our organ in the auditorium has over 1,600 pipes plus all the sound effects, so there's a wire going to every one of those and coming back. from the console all the way up to the chambers. So these women are pulling, grouping up and pulling long threads of wire, forming them into cables. After they pull the long wires, they have to terminate them in terminal boards. I think there's probably a better term for that, Bob, but I call them terminal strips or terminal boards, where they're terminating the wires on each end, the console, and then there'll be some terminations up in the pipe chambers. And finally, they bind the wires together here. It looks like they're doing some binding on terminals, and then they will tape up the cables, or tape up the wires to form cables.
That's part of the relay, is that she was working on part of a relay, an old relay.
And then finally, they're testing. They have to check out all their connections from one end to the other, buzz out, make sure all the wires, they have continuity through all the wires. And then this last operation, when they're sure they've got their wiring right, they tape the wires up to form a cable. Okay, so that's just a few snippets. That's about 1/3 of the video. If you're interested in seeing more of the operations, check out the full video on our YouTube channel. You want to talk about the stage?
Sure. So this is our organ. It's like coming from IKEA, all right? At one point in time, when the organ was removed from the RKO Palace, it was all on the stage at the RKO Palace. So this is the way it looked at that point in time on the stage. You can see various different things here, from the console itself to some of those regulators we talked about, pipe chests, xylophones, here's a drum, various different things all over, some of the mitered pipes back here, because even some of those pipes are too big for our chambers, so they're mitered. Everything was on the stage here. It went into trucks, and it went to Bosch and Lomb. The people at Bosch and Lomb let RTOS, the original members of RTOS, store the organ there until they could find a home and get it installed. However, they didn't have a freight elevator, and the space they had for us was on the 4th floor. So it actually was rigged up the outside of the building and all into that. And there's a couple existing members that still remember that whole process when that happened. So it's kind of cool. So where's the organ now?
So we talked about the RKO Palace, and the organ played there from 1928 when Tom Pearson started playing it. And it was used, actually our organ probably never did play for a silent movie. The talkies were coming in the late 20s, 27, 28, 29. But they did play for vaudeville shows, and they did play for movies beforehand, intermissions and so forth. So the organ was used up until, I think, 1943, when it fell silent, and it was silent for many years. And around 1960, a group of theater organ enthusiasts here in Rochester asked if they could resurrect it, and they did. They refurbished it, got it playing again, and started attracting fairly large audiences to the RKO Palace. And then rather suddenly in 1965, it was announced the palace was going to be demolished. And they were going to build twin 18-story towers in its place. I'm not sure what the purpose of the towers was to be, but they never materialized. And if you've been here living in Rochester, you probably know that space became a parking lot for many, many years. I think now it's the site of the bus station or bus transportation center or something like that. So it was very sad. The beautiful, opulent palace was torn down to make way for a project that never materialized. So anyway, the enthusiastic organ people, as Bob mentioned, rescued the organ. Bausch and Lomb contributed space to store it, and then they brought it to the Masonic Temple, which is now the Auditorium Theater. Are people familiar with RBTL, Rochester Broadway Theater League? I see quite a few hands. Do you know that we have a nearly 100-year-old organ there, and we provide 8 concerts a year? That's the secret. And now I'm letting you in on the secret. So this Wurlitzer organ that we're talking about is in the West. It's now the Wurlitzer Auditorium Theater. We're very happy about that development. The Wurlitzer Auto Group has provided, it's a private deal, so we don't know the numbers, but it's been described as a significant and sustaining contribution to the refurbishment and renovation of the Wurlitzer Auditorium Theater and the rest of the building, which RPTL owns now. It's the Wurlitzer Performing Arts Center. So we're very happy about that, and there's renovations going on daily. Let's see. So before the organ could be installed in the theater, the E.M. Skinner organ that was in the Masonic Temple had to be removed, and it was relocated to the Church of the Ascension on Riverside Street, and it's still there today in that church. So all the organ components, pipes, percussions, all these devices that you saw on the stage all had to be put back up, hoisted up into the chambers in the auditorium theater. And that was completed in around January of 1967. Remember, the palace came down in 65. In 67, the organ was ready to go, and Don Scott played the initial concert. Unfortunately, Tom Gerson passed away during that time period, so he was not available to play the organ. Mentioning Tom Gerson, Bob kind of gave away another secret. The reason I'm involved with the Theater Organ Society is my wife is Tom Gerson's granddaughter. So that's why we're tied to it very closely. Let's see. Oh, so then the organ, this is where I should mention, the RTOS organ now we call was in 2008, the organ was dubbed the RTOS Grierson organ in honor of Tom Grierson and the Grierson family, his son Jack, Jack's son John, my wife's brother, my wife, and now my daughter is the newsletter editor. So it's we've got several generations involved. This is the console of the unit orchestra. It's fairly complicated, isn't it? There's 4 manuals in this organ, the 4 keyboards that you see there. You see the horseshoe of colored tabs around. Those are called stop tabs, and those are the switches that are used to switch the various pipes in and out of use. You see these white dots, white knobs below the keyboard. Those are combination pistons, and those the organist can use as presets. Of course, remember, this is 1920s technology. It's very much mechanical. So those presets are used to preset those stop tabs. So when I show you another video in a few minutes, you'll notice when Dave Wickerham is playing the entertainer, if you watch closely once in a while, you'll see his thumb flip one of those combination pistons, and you'll see a bunch of tabs go up or down as he changes the combinations.
I want to add one more thing for the organist in the room. One of the things that we also have on 2 of the manuals is what they call second touch, which means if you push the key just a little bit further down, you get additional instruments playing. So it's a technique you have to learn of when to actually give it that little extra push to bring in something else. And all those second touch options are here on this back wall.
So the busy artist playing in a concert is using his right hand typically to play the melody, using his left hand to play the accompaniment, his left foot playing the bass notes, and his right foot using those large pedals there to control volume. So you see an artist is very busy being a one-man orchestra. So in the Wurlitzer Auditorium Theater, we've got pipe chambers. The main chamber is on the left side. So up there where you see some lights coming through the proscenium arch. And so on the left side is the main chamber. I think there are about 10 ranks in that chamber. And above that chamber, even higher up, is the blower that Bob mentioned that supplies all the wind for the organ. Over on the right side is what we call the solo chamber, and you can see some ranks of pipes shown there on that side. Most ranks have about 61 pipes, with some ranks having an octave or two more. The pipes range in size from the size of a pencil up to 16 feet in length. And we have a better picture later, but in the back there, I'll just mention, there are the shutters that control the volume. Remember, these pipes speak at one level that's very loud because there's good wind pressure behind them. They only speak at this one loud level. If you're in the chamber, you'll know it. And so we control the volume out into the theater by opening up those shutters one at a time across until they're all open. You get the full volume. As they shut down, you get fairly smooth volume control that way. And it's all operated with air pressure. So let's jump to, I'm going to jump to secret number 2. People familiar with the Rochester Museum and Science Center? The planetarium? How about the Eisenhower Auditorium and the charter school that's there? Yeah, I see some people nodding their heads. Well, there's another organ there that RTOS maintains. And that organ came from Massachusetts, from the Capitol Theater. It's a 3/8, 3-manual 8-rank originally from the Capitol Theater. And it was number 1492 from the Wurlitzer Company. And it made its debut, I forget the year, this was in the early 70s. It was brought here to Rochester, and it got installed in the Eisenhower Auditorium, and it began playing on Columbus Day.
Nice.
So number 1492 started playing here in Rochester on Columbus Day. I guess it's just a coincidence. So RTOS member Don Hall had moved to Rochester to become the first director of the museum's state-of-the-art Strassenberg Planetarium in 1968. He realized that the Eisenhower Auditorium would be an ideal home for an instrument like this. He approached the museum and RTOS with his idea. Everybody got together, made an agreement. RTOS bought the instrument from some investors, refurbished it, and installed it in the Eisenhower Auditorium. And then on Columbus Day weekend, 1978, I was looking for the year, Don Scott once again played that organ for the first time here in Rochester. So what's behind the curtains? This is the Eisenhower organ, but there's a few photographs we have of that organ that helps to show you what's behind the curtains. So here we have a few mitered pipes on the right. There's not a lot to see in this one. Let's move. There's a couple of better photos, actually. Some more ranks. You'll see a drum in the back, upper right. There's a close-up. So there's a drum.
Most drums have a couple different actions to them, so you have the same drum head with 2 different effects.
So you see a larger, softer mallet, and then you see 2 smaller, hard mallets there. And they're, again, operated by air pressure. Now, I see here we've cheated. You notice the piping there. In an original installation, as Bob had mentioned, that would have been all metal, soldered metal seam piping. We're cheating using some PVC here in the modern age.
Most people do.
So here's a close-up of the shutters over at the Eisenhower. You can see here more clearly how they operate.
So there's basically like a old bellows sitting right here. Yeah.
So there's a set of bellows, one for each shade, and what happens is air goes into that, expands and pushes this open, and the spring pulls it shut. It's very simple, but there will be several of them for each chamber.
So those just open across one by one as he presses down on the pedal to let more volume out into the theater, and when he releases the pedal, they close back up by the spring tension. So that's how the shutters work.
Nice little picture of a glockenspiel here.
So this is a glockenspiel, and you can see the wires, each metal bar there, each tone has an actuator and a bellows, I guess, to control it, to make it move. you can see the bundle of wire going there because every one of those actuators needs a wire going to it and a wire back to control it.
Obviously, that wire is not the Wurlitzer wire. Wurlitzer wire was all the same color.
It's all
This is,
white.
you know, pretty much phone wire these days.
Yeah, as you saw in the video, I think all the wire was white.
Yeah, it was.
And all the problem with that, I know when I worked in my job with electronics, we had some earlier equipment, it was all full of white wire. Problem was, if there was an issue, you could safely say it was in the white wire. But go ahead and try and find it.
Well, this one, these wires all have stripes on them,
Yeah,
so it's the stripe.
they're all color coded.
Um,
Here's your good example of mitered pipes.
Yeah, here's your mired pipes. These, actually, is part of a set where there's actually a hammer action going on down here to pulse the air that goes through this. These particular pipes are designed to basically work with the bass pipes to get you even a lower tone. So you have a 16-foot pipe that would actually sound like a 32 type scenario. But that's what that set of pipes is all about.
The next slide is simply the blower that's the blower for the Eisenhart. A little bit smaller organ, less demanding.
Might be smaller, but they're still heavy as can be. That's the same size as the one in my house. Yeah.
So here's what you might hear at an organ concert. I wanted to give you a little bit longer take on this. This is Dave Wickerham. He's one of our favorite artists. He's coming April 6th.
Yes.
We're having a concert. And
Currently in
Dave-
the UK too. He's going to be coming to us right after he gets back. So
Okay.
he's coming back in about a week and then coming here.
So our theater organists typically introduce each number of the concert before playing it. They mention the composer, the story behind the piece, occasionally an anecdote. And they develop, especially Dave Wickerham, really develop rapport with the audience, making the RTOS concerts really enjoyable. They're encouraged to put their own personality into the performance. They do their own arrangements. Often you might hear a tune by one artist at a concert, and then sometime later the same tune by another artist, and they're similar but different. They put their own style and arrangements into it. So we'll play this for you and let you enjoy. This is The Entertainer from The Sting. When you go to an RTOS concert, we have a screen and we have cameras. So wherever you sit in the house, you'll be able to see these views. This is typical as you go through here, and Bob's actually our operator. I'm sorry to stand in front of you. So you'll be able to see their hand action on the manuals. You'll be able to see their feet moving. We have an overhead view and so forth. So there's really no bad seat in the house. Even though the organist's back is to you, you can see almost everything that's going on up there.
There are better seats for the audio quality though. It sounds a lot better in the balcony or in front of the balcony, but not under the balcony.
How did you like that? To the next. There we go. So what is the Rochester Theater Organ Society? Well, we're a group of volunteers that maintain this organ and the one in the one in the auditorium and also the one in the Eisenhart auditorium. We're all volunteer group. We present 8 concerts a year. Most all the work is done by volunteers. We do have one paid person now doing maintenance. Unfortunately, a lot of the skill has been lost over the years. So if anyone is interested in learning more about the organ and maintenance, we'd love to have you helping out. Just like a battleship or an aircraft carrier, you can see the complexity of this organ and imagine that there's always maintenance to do. So we're always looking for more help. As I said, we produce 8 concerts each year. The season schedule I threw up here. In September of '24 was our 60th anniversary of the Rochester Theater Organ Society. We had 2 artists for that concert. John Ledwin, who's a Disney artist, came and played with a Disney music theme, which was very popular. And then we had a reception, and after the reception, Brett Miller, who's a young Eastman School of Music student, played the accompaniment to the silent film Speedy. Mark Herman played movie themes and Hooray for Hollywood and so forth down the list there. Coming up on this Sunday, March 23rd, is our annual Eastman Bunch concert, the 16th one in the series. This is where we have, I believe, 7 Eastman School of Music organ students will be playing at the Auditorium Theater, along with Professor Bill Porter, who instructs them. They'll be performing the first half, and then in the second half, we have an up-and-coming new young artist, Camden Church. He's from Buffalo,
Yep.
Is it? Camden's from Buffalo. Came on a recommendation, and turns out he's only been at it a couple of years, but really spectacular young talent. So we're looking forward to that this coming Sunday. Then April 6th, Dave Wickerham will be here with music from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and so forth through May and June. So we do know how to spell. I don't know if any of you picked it up, but you'll see the Rochester Theater Organ Society spells theater E-R, and everywhere else in here you'll see we spelling theater, like theater organ, as R-E. Well, the Rochester Theater Organ Society, for whatever reason, when they were incorporated, used the spelling of theater with ER. But pretty much everywhere else in the theater organ world, you'll see theater spelled R-E. Typically, Americans maintain ER as a venue, while a theater is an art form, and that a theater is a movie theater, where theater R-E is a drama venue. So if that helps at all to get it straight in your head.
As long as there's no squiggle under it.
Yeah, no squiggle. So what's our mission? Well, our mission is to promote the understanding of theater organ and its musical tradition. So our concerts are free to children and 12 and under, and students with ID, like college students. So we're really trying to encourage younger people to come and enjoy and learn about theater organ music and history. We've partnered with the Eastman School of Music, as I mentioned. Their organ students come and present a concert each year. We allow them to come in and practice on our organ to learn more about the theater organ and get some hands-on experience. During the pandemic, when live performances weren't possible, RTOS created and posted a virtual concert that was performed by Brett Miller, a student at Eastman School of Music. So with the artist's permissions, we do post concerts video on our YouTube channel. So again, go to our YouTube channel, Wurlitzer 1951, and take a look at the videos that are up there. We offer memberships. This is one of the best. Whoops, did I skip something?
Yeah, I'm out of order. Yeah, it's the next one's what you want to do.
Oh,
Start to
yeah,
talk about
sorry.
that. That's all right. You mentioned RIT. RIT is getting a theater organ as well, coming hopefully at the beginning of next year. It will be playable, but it's being installed in the new theater of the building. It's not a Wurlitzer, it's a Morton, but it's going to be another great organ in Rochester.
So if you can back up.
Go back?
Yeah. My papers were out of order here. So where can you learn more about RTOS? Well, we have a website, rtosonline.org. We're a .org, not a .com. So look for rtosonline.org. We have our YouTube channel, Rochester Theater Organ Society, or search on Wurlitzer 1951. We're also on Facebook under groups, Rochester Theater Organ Society. And we're currently working on some more social media to try to talk to younger people through social media. We offer memberships, and I gotta make a pitch here for memberships. We're the best deal in town, hands down. $75 for an annual membership fee. That includes 8 concerts each year for you and a guest, so that's 2 people. So that's a little less than $5 a piece. You can't go to a ball game or a hockey game or anything else for that kind of money. So the benefits are the 8 concerts a year. We have world-class organists, and we have young and upcoming talent. We offer a diverse variety throughout each season of talent in the artists. We have monthly open console sessions. If you're a member, you can come to the Eisenhart Auditorium each month and play the Eisenhart 312 organ. Sign up for a time to play it. You get our monthly blower newsletter, keep up to date on what's going on with the society. We have a lending library. You can borrow music from our lending library. We have cassettes, CDs, and flash drives, so different media that you can borrow and take home to listen to RTOS concerts and other commercial recordings. And finally, volunteer opportunities, if you're so inclined. Okay? Yep. So yeah, if you want to run those around. Okay, so I'd like to do a check here, make sense check, to see that we gave you some information that's useful, and that, so let's do a little quiz here. Theater organs are only used to accompany silent movies. True or false?
False.
False. Why? Because we play all kinds of music, and put on concerts 8 times a year. Theater organs are historical instruments, mostly in disrepair.
No. I don't know.
Well, it's kind of a trick question. Unfortunately, there are many theater organs we've lost in theaters across the country. There used to be many, many more of them, and many of them succumbed to technology, competition, movies, fires, unfortunately, in some of these old theaters. We're very fortunate here in the Rochester area to have 2 fully operational historic organs. There's also 2 theaters in Buffalo, Shays Theater and the Riviera, Capitol Theater in Rome. Which other ones am I forgetting, Bob? Elmira.
Syracuse, Elmira, Binghamton.
Syracuse is on the State Fairgrounds, the Clemens Center, and Binghamton Theater Organ Society. So in upstate New York, actually, we're quite fortunate. Across the country, though, sadly, many have been lost or have fallen into disrepair.
The one in Syracuse is completely original, with the original relay that actually worked with all sorts of pneumatics and things like that. So it's not the easiest for an organist to play these days, but it's 100% historically correct.
Oh, so I just gave you the answer to the next one. You need to travel great distances to hear a theater organ. No. 2 in Rochester, several others here in upstate New York. Music at theater organ concerts is just like church music.
No.
No way. No, it's much more interesting. Don't throw anything. Theater organists are all very senior citizens and have very limited music repertoires.
Well, no.
No, they come in all ages. And they come from all areas. We're proud of the fact that we draw, because of the quality of our organ and the maintenance that we apply to it, we're very proud that we attract organists from across the country and around the world. So we're very, very lucky there. In front of you, you have some handouts. Let's see. First of all, you have our brochure. You can read more about RTOS in our brochure. You'll find in there my business card and Bob's, if you have any questions later on, and I'll open it up to questions in just a minute. You have our contact information. You have a bookmark, and on the back of it is our QR code to our website and a reminder that we're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We have a message line. Typically, I put a message on there about the next concert. But you can also leave a message there if you'd like a call back. The quiz. There's a magnet in here, a refrigerator magnet for you that's good to go on your refrigerator or filing cabinet. And then here's our season schedule. And you can see that we have, on the right-hand side, we still have 4 concerts coming up. March 23rd, the Eastman Bunch. Dave Wickerham, who you saw here, is coming on April 6th. Pierre Fraccolanza is coming on May 4th, and Justin Lavoie on June 8th. So we hope you will attend. I don't see the passes. I messed up. Yes, I think so. I apologize. I was to include passes in here, and it looks like I missed them. We will. Let me see if I have some. If I don't have enough, we will still get you into a free concert.
So here's the thing. You heard the nepotism here? There's a lot